speaker is Miss Makwela. I'm hoping she's live. She's online now. Miss Matselenyane Makwela, presenting Enhancing Safety Standards Across the Borders. Enhancing Safety Standards Across the Borders, Miss Matselenyane Makwela. Welcome.
Thank you, Nangamso, and thank you to all delegates attending this session. Please give me a minute just to project the presentation.
While we are giving Matselenyane a minute, a reminder to please use the Discuss tab on the platform to obviously pose your questions to any of our speakers. And another reminder to then use the Polls tab on the platform as well to rate the speakers. We will, in just under 2 hours, be handing out the Best Speaker Prize, which will obviously be determined by you. You'll rate them between 1 and 6. And depending on who gets the best aggregate score, you will then obviously determine that winner. We're also asking you to please take pictures of yourself engaging with the conference in whatever way you are and sharing that on social media platforms for us. We'll also be giving out a wonderful prize for your photo booth, as we are calling it. I'll share the hashtag with you a little bit later. Matselenyane, are you ready to go to proceed?
Let me try to share. Please be patient a while.
It's perfect. It was there for a second and it disappeared. What we can do for you is put up the presentation on our side that you forwarded to us, and then you can just prompt the colleague from the regulator to obviously go to the next slide when you're ready to. Would you prefer us to do that?
Yes, please go on.
Okay. If we can put up the presentation, there it is. It's over to you again.
Thank you very much. And as I said, thank you all delegates attending this session. As introduced, please allow me to start by saying, can you please page to the second slide? The next one. Yes. Please allow me to start by saying railway safety standards, regulations, guidelines, policies remain key to enhance the performances of the railways, to enhance safe interoperability, and to ensure sustainable future throughout the SADC region. Why am I saying so? I'm saying so having listened to all the discussions since the beginning of this conference, which we all affirm that they are indeed great. As we are sitting here, there are great opinions from us as the railway members on how we can move our railways forward. Also reflecting on the lesson that we have just learned globally on the management of COVID-19, on how COVID-19 was managed, where we have all seen how clear and effective guidelines and regulations enabled all of us globally to uniformly manage and implement the guidelines within those regulations up to where we are today, where we have adopted to live in this new normal, which began with the use of that regulation. I believe with COVID-19, this was a very great testimony to say to us, with effective management of risks, we can all manage the situations. Now, with that being said, please, the next slide. With that being said, and also as introduced, that I am currently serving within the regulator, with the harmonization, within which the harmonization of standards is one of our objectives within our mandate. So let us take a quick look into our role as the railways throughout the region and how we contribute to economic development. As you see on this map, we transverse across the region. In other words, now as we are in South Africa, we go across the borders from one country to another, transporting our commodities. It is also said, please page another one. It is also said that the railways as a mode of transport has a great potential to enhance economic growth. This was also said by the previous speaker, we have heard it. By our nature, as shown in the map, we transverse across the region as an integrated system for support and promotion of trade across the borders. What does this mean to us? One entity, one organization of the railways, we still depend on others. We still depend on the others across the borders to ensure that our commodities, our passengers that we transport, they reach their destinations. One of the roles that we play as the railways, we alleviate the traffic congestions from other modes. This was also said by the previous speaker. We minimize all the environmental emissions, particularly also from the transport mode. Another slide. Another slide. This is affirmed, backward. Backward. Please page back, yes. This throughout the region, as I said, within the mandate of the regulator, we have the responsibility to harmonize safety in a way to enhance the performances of the railways, which cannot only be within South Africa, it has to transverse across the borders so that we reach the destinations, we transport those commodities which maybe the other mode of transport does not have that advantage. So all this affirmation is within the regional documents, within the protocol on transport, communication and metrology, which states that we have a greater potential to offer safe, efficient and environmentally friendly transportation system across the region. The Regional Infrastructure Development Master Plan further indicates that the railway transport has been identified as one of the pillars for growth and development throughout the SADC region. One of the things that we continue to witness is the investments that are made by our governments. The previous speaker also highlighted on it, that there are a lot of significant investments into the railways, mainly in the form of projects, with that aim of enhancing our performances across the regional borders, across our countries, so that indeed we can enhance that contribution. On Wednesday, there is a speaker that highlighted on this project, the Gazangula Bridge, which it is widely known that is one of the best worldwide, the bridge that connects 4 countries, and that is those investments that are made for us as the railways, indeed to transverse safely, to interoperate safely, and to enhance our contribution towards economic development. With that being said, with this presentation, the next slide. With this presentation, as we're saying, the standards remain key. We want to highlight that without effective use of common guidelines and standards and regulations, as we have witnessed with the management of COVID, as the railways will continue to experience challenges which are very common to us. Most of them, they were highlighted since the beginning of the conference, even this morning. One of them being the theft and vandalism. This is a challenge that we're battling with it as the railways, Hence, we're saying without that harmonized guideline standards, without that harmonized regulations, we are most probably to continue being faced with this kind of challenges. Is a lot of them. Incompatible gauges, poor infrastructure, poor rolling stock, the projects that are not succeeding mainly because of lack of common standards. Project, it gets completed. The next thing, it cannot be effective, or it cannot serve the purpose that it was meant for due to lack of compatibility with the other system, due to lack of the standards that should have been considered during the implementation or during the development of that project. The region, or all of us, we continue to experience increasing rate of railway occurrences and other incidents. We have heard a lot about the security incidents. We have heard a lot about the railway occurrences related to the management of human factors, all those challenges that continue to border us as the railways, which they are mainly because of the lack of application of common guideline standards and regulations by us as the railways, as an integrated system. What I'm trying to push forward here is that if I am using a standard that in my own, I believe it is good, it's yielding that value, it is still very important for us as an integrated system, for whatever that we use to be harmonized so that we can be able to interoperate. Within the standards that I say, they are key. Those kind of guidelines, they are provided. And as we have heard that some of the standards, we may develop them as the regulator. I want to put forward this morning that standards are developed by consensus, and we welcome all the stakeholders on board. At the doors of the regulators, at any time, they are open for you to collaborate. Let's hold hands together and let us make sure that standards are developed, regulations are developed that are very meaningful for us, not only for one country, throughout the region, for us to enhance the performances of the railways from one border to another. We continue to lose business, we continue to lose clients as the railways due to perceived poor safety compliance. Those turnaround times that are lengthy and not attractive, really impacting the efficiency and reliability of the railways. This presentation this morning, it says, let us enhance the use of standards, let us enhance the use of regulations, with a classic example that we have learned through the COVID-19 management, to ensure that the railways move forward and they contribute to economic development nationally and throughout the SADC region. Please, page. With that being said, our sustainable solution for us as the railways lies in the development, implementation, and compliance to harmonized railway safety standards and other regulatory tools, which is what will enable us to sustain and what will enable us to adapt to any change that we come across. The next slide. A question that we may be asking ourselves is, how can the standards really serve that purpose to manage all those risks that we're hearing about? On that note, let us quickly look into the purpose of railway safety standards. They provide technical requirements for the management of safe railway operations. In other words, when we are all uniformly using them, we will be compatible and we will be able to operate, to interoperate, and enhance our movement across the regions, across our national regions, across our borders, and across the SADC region as a whole. Standards ensure identification and management of railway safety risks. We have just indicated the challenges with the use of standards, with the use of these technical requirements that are provided within the standards that are provided within the regulations, as the railways will be able to identify those challenges proactively and be able to manage them on time. They enhance uniform and safe railway management throughout the SADC region, promote safety, security, and interoperability throughout the region, reduce operational occurrences and any other incidents that may have negative impact on safe railway operations, promote the use of rail as the safest and economic transport system throughout the region. This is emphasized this morning. We have heard it from the previous speaker. As the railways, really, we have that potential, and with the use of standards, we can enhance that economic contribution, being the safest mode of transport. The promotion of security, we have heard about it, that we are faced with challenges, and with the use of standards, we can mitigate all those risks related to securities. Next one. The benefits. Using the standards also, you enhance compatibility, uniform operations. I have spoken about it. You enhance sustainable designs. You will see as we go into the highlight of what is contained within the standards, where they provide the management of risk throughout different life cycle phases. So as you design we heard of a lot of good innovations through this conference. So using the standards, those good innovations can really assist us as the railways to enhance the designs, to enhance how we operate, to enhance the maintenance and modification of rolling stock, infrastructure, and any other initiatives that we have. They reduce failures, high maintenance costs, railway occurrences, and other incidents. They reduce transit times and corridor turnaround times. If we are compliant to the standards, we are most likely to move within time, to be fast, efficient, and reliable, and that indeed it will enhance the performances of the railways. Ultimately, it will improve the cross-border harmonization and operations and interoperability, and increase our contribution, as I have already said. The next slide. Next slide. Next slide. With that being said, a question again that we may be asking ourselves is, but do we have the standards? And we know for sure, especially our South Africa, we do have the standards that we are using from time to time. We're using them within the safety management to issue the permits. Today, with this presentation, we're taking appreciation of us as the railways, not only within South Africa, but across the region. This slide highlights the progress, how far we are as the SADC, the potential that will enable us to move our commodities, the potential that will enable us to collaborate and reach agreements to move our cargoes, to transport those passengers from one country to another. We have a list of standards that have been adopted by the SADC. This includes the 89 SADC Harmonized Text 89, 1991, 92 up to 96 is a list of 8 of them. The next slide. And for time's sake, allow me not to go into detail for all of them. However, I want to highlight just a few for us to have an appreciation and to have this knowledge that you can engage, you can collaborate, you can interoperate with the other operators across the region for reasons that we have the standards that are common to us Like I said, a classic example was the regulations that were published for the management of COVID, which they took us to where we are today. Within this set of 8, the first one being the SADC Harmonized Text 89, it is a railway safety management and is a general standard that set the scene, that provides the general safety management guideline. It guides that uniformity in the management of railway safety throughout the region, and it emphasizes the risk management approach that we have just said, that the standard enables you to identify the risks and manage those risks. And all application of the elements of these standards is based on your complexity. What exactly do you do, your detailed operations, the type of commodities that you transport, are you a passenger rail? And it provides that requirement that helps you to manage those types of risks. The next one. The next set that I want to highlight is a set of those that are referred to as engineering and operational safety standards, which are the standards that contains the technical requirements, contains the management of risk throughout the life cycle phases. Please page to the next slide. These standards are mainly the very specific standards for the technical components of the railway system. I'm referring to the tracks, civil and electrical infrastructure. We have the standard that is SADC Harmonized Text 91. In other words, when we're managing our risks relating to our extent, relating to our tracks, civil and electrical infrastructure, we are harmonized, all of us across the borders. This standard has been adopted by the SADC for all of us to implement the requirements contained in this standard so that we can enhance our movement, we can enhance our interoperability across the borders using the technical requirements provided in this standard. We appreciate the views that were brought in here to say we have to collaborate and get the views if there is a need for amendment within the practices of developing the standard. That can be done to enhance the content and to enhance the implementation of those standards. The next one that has been harmonized is the rolling stock standard. Yes, our rolling stock needs to be designed for the infrastructure, and all that requirements are contained within the SADC Harmonized Text Standard number 92. 96 contains the requirements for train authorization, train control, and all telecommunication system. I'm highlighting these three, which is our core technical components of the railways across the regional borders, including 95. Let me not forget to highlight SADC Harmonized Text 95, which is a standard that provides those requirements for train operations. So what we are learning through this presentation is if we are all throughout the region utilizing the requirements of the standard, where we are encountering constraints, engage with your interface partner across the border and let us agree based on the content provided within this standard. The next slide. This is just the slides that highlight the detailed content. As I said, 91 is for track, civil and electrical infrastructure. There we're just highlighting what it provides. As we said also, that it provides the management of risk throughout the different life cycle phases. As you thinking, as you conceiving to extend your lines, as you conceiving to do some amendments, to do anything on the track, civil and electrical infrastructure, the technical requirements that will help us to be compatible with our interfacing partners are contained within the standard. Next one. Please, page. The next one is rolling stock. Please allow me not to emphasize. The next one again is level crossing standard. We have had even yesterday with a presentation that highlights the amount of occurrences that challenges the railways at level crossings. The standard provides requirements for us nationally across the borders to uniformly manage the risks for level crossings. The standard provides the physical assessment model that will assist the railway operators to assess the risks related to level crossings and guide on how you're supposed to identify your risks and mitigate your risks. It promotes a common approach. Hence, I say the standards remain key in any other regulations. Next slide.
Ms. Makwela, we have 2 questions for you on the discuss chat, and we only have 4 minutes for you left. Can I please request that we deal with these 2 questions, and then at the end of the session, if we have more time, you will come back and speak on the areas you couldn't finish in your presentation. Is that okay?
Can I just finish with the last slide? The last 2 slides. Thank you, Nangamso.
All right.
Thank you. Please page to the last 2 slides. Yes, I wanted to highlight that over and above that, throughout the SADC region, there is an initiative that establishes the Railway Regulatory Association to facilitate information sharing. As we have said, the standards are adopted. This body aims to facilitate that common sharing, to facilitate the governance and to enhance implementation of these standards, and to advocate for any other to implement the standards and to comply to the standards for the region. The next one. The next slide, please. With that being said, for us as the railways, our sustainable solution remains the effective implementation and compliance to adopted standards, continual identification of risks, participation by all members. As I've said, we are an integrated system and our success depends on the others. Continual benchmarking and relationship with other organizations. We have heard it again from the previous speakers. Organizations like International Union of Railways, International Organization for Standardization, the ISO. These organizations, they do develop standards for the railways. So with this plea, we are saying, as railway members, can we continue to research and benchmark and develop relationships where we can learn and participate, and when necessary, adopt other standards, as it is a continual process for us to continue enhancing our performances. And in conclusion, the last slide for conclusion, I conclude by saying, enhancing standards is a collaborative approach, and together as railway stakeholders, through effective implementation, through effective compliance to harmonize standards, like the global world has done for the management of COVID, we shall all grow the railways and adapt to new normal and safely interoperate and sustain the railways into the future. I thank you.
Thank you very much for that wonderful presentation. And I can see that there's wealth of information, there's wealth of knowledge around the railway sector. And I can see there's 2 questions on the chat, but I'm going to ask you, Ms. Makwela, to respond to those questions on the chat. I will not be able